Hi everybody, I'm Ashton Potter-Wright. I'm the Executive Director of the Food Connection at the University of Kentucky. We are an applied food systems center focused on serving farmers, food producers, students in our wider Kentucky community by supporting the development of a more vibrant, equitable, and resilient local food system in Kentucky. So we try to come up with creative solutions and partnerships to help address bottlenecks in the local food supply chain with a special emphasis on institutional markets. And so we have a couple of programs today that I'm going to talk about where we work one-on-one with farmers who are interested in exploring mid to large-scale market opportunities. So this is our team. I'm joined with three of our value chain coordinators who you're going to hear from in just a little bit. So there's me, the executive director. We have a faculty chair, Dr. Krista Jacobson. We have a chef and program manager and a teaching kitchen on campus in Lexington, where Chef Tana does culinary programming around how to make local food more accessible and how to cook with local ingredients on a budget. We have a business officer. We have two extension associates that work with our Cultivate Kentucky partnership. I'll share a little bit more about that program in a minute. And then our three wonderful VCCs, or value chain coordinators, who are here with us today. So first, before we talk about the value chain work, I want to talk a little bit about Cultivate Kentucky. It's a really unique program. It's a partnership that we lead in conjunction with the Kentucky Horticulture Council, the Food Systems Innovation Center at UK, as well as KCARD, or the Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development. And this partnership came about in 2016 as a result of a couple of different partners and others, a couple of buyers coming to the table and saying, we're trying to buy Kentucky grown produce, particularly at the University of Kentucky, and our distributor is saying, we don't have any Kentucky grown produce to sell. And we collectively knew that wasn't the case. We investigated what the bottleneck was, and the bottleneck at the time was there were less than a handful of producers that had a third-party good agricultural practices, or GAP, audit. So it's a buyer-driven audit. It is food safety placed. You have to have a food safety plan, and it's a lot of record keeping. But that was the linchpin. We only had 5 growers in the state who had that, and that is required of folks who want to sell into some of these larger wholesale and institutional markets. So we hired Brian Brady to provide one-on-one free technical assistance to growers. He'll come out to the farm. He will help walk your farm with you, help you give you a food safety plan template, help you draft the plan, identify potential issues that might come up on an audit, like what is your water source, what's your wash pack facility, are you packing in the field, et cetera, and make recommendations to help set you up for a successful third-party GAP audit. And that program has been really, really successful. There's now nearly 100 farms in the state that have a third-party GAP audit, and we added staff capacity, so we now have 2 folks doing this statewide. And it's really unique. Among our counterparts in the region, nobody has this kind of free, again, one-on-one TA, so we're pretty proud of that. And if you're interested in something like that, we can get you connected with Brian and Courtney to talk through it if it might be right for you. Anyway, the second program that I think might be of interest today is our Kentucky Value Chain Collaborative. A value chain coordinator is someone who is building those relationships between growers and buyers and all of the different intermediate partners along the supply chain. So processors, distributors, et cetera. Identifying what are the opportunities and also what are the challenges with moving local food along the value chain. So I did some of this value chain work before this current role. I worked in the city of Lexington in the mayor's office for about 8 years doing this relationship building in the central Kentucky area. And when I came to the Food Connection, what I learned was that we need more boots on the ground, more people building those relationships, building that connective tissue out. And so we went to the Ag Development Board and asked for money to hire 3 folks who are fortunately now sitting here in the audience today to help, again, build out the connective tissue to support farmers in accessing new market opportunities throughout the state. We were fortunate to receive an additional 6 months of funding through Cooperative Extension, and so we're now funded through kind of middle of next year with some certainty. And so the value chain coordinators cover West, Central, and East Kentucky respectively. We're using the Cooperative Extension administrative regions as kind of their defined territories. And we will introduce to you, I think that they're next. Well, this is a quick, before they introduce themselves, just a quick impact snapshot. This is a little bit old now. We submitted this in December, to the Ag Development Board. So the project was funded in 22. We hired them in spring of last year. And so from roughly March to November really, of last year, they made contact with over 130 farms in 50 counties with information, reach out to them with information about their work, about potential market and distribution opportunities. They facilitated over 1.6 million in new sales for at least 60 farms, and at least 5 new farms were generated as a result of the market opportunities that they were able to identify for those farms. So we hope to add to those numbers this coming year, but they're doing a really fantastic job. And so this is a map just kind of indicating where we have facilitated sales so far, and we hope to make much more of that map blue by the end of this year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to each of them to tell you a little bit more about what they do on a day-to-day basis to help contextualize it.
And we're going to have to color in Simpson and Logan County now because they've got sales in those. So I'm Brandy Button Johnson, and I'm in Barron County, Kentucky, and I like visual aids, so I'm going to point to where that is. So I live about 2.5 hours from everywhere, apparently, because anytime Ashton asks me if I can come up to Frankfort or Lexington, I'm like, it's about 2.5 hours. And before this role, I was the executive director of Bounty of the Barrens Farmers Market in Barron County, Kentucky. So I've done a lot of work with farmers markets and helped develop the programs there for Double Dollars and direct sales outlets, and we did a Fresh RX program. I was raised on a tobacco farm, so my dad had to take the buyout, and I apologize for my voice because I don't normally sound like this, but it was completely gone 2 days ago. So through that experience of being raised on a tobacco farm and seeing my dad, my uncle, and granddad, we all lived on the same road and helped each other, and they transitioned out with the buyout because they couldn't grow it anymore. It made sense. Part of the passion came from wanting to see people be able to farm full-time, make a living doing it, and keep their family farms. So I used my degree to get into social justice, social responsibility, and sustainable communities. And it just made sense to use the local ag economy to put back into the local economy and help farmers at the same time. So that's where I'm coming from in my background. So as the Western Value Chain Coordinator, I expanded on that work, and I'm in these 39 counties, and I meet with producers in those counties, and I talk to them about what they're doing on a small or a mid-scale and where they want to be. What can we do to help diversify those sales outlets, and what are they doing now, and help them scale appropriately so that they don't overwhelm themselves or they don't get in a position where they can't do the distribution or afford the labor or any of those things. So we work very closely with partners throughout the state, whether they be KCARD or CFA or OAK or KSU, KDA. And when we're meeting with those farmers, we're listening to their stories and hearing about where they're at, where they want to be. And during that initial visit, take time with them to say, okay, if that's where you want to be, then you probably I'm going to connect you to KCARD first so that you can talk to them about revisiting your business plan. Or I'm going to set you up with our Cultivate Kentucky team. We're going to talk about getting your farm safety plan in order so that you can sell into, this buyer, this program. The stuff that you see on the slide there is I worked a lot with our Barron County school system because I had a relationship there. And a lot of the value chain coordination work, I love. This is where my passion is relationship building. So because you have those relationships in your communities, which helps you as farmers, if you're interested in getting into farmers markets and scaling up or doing local foods, then I urge you to build relationships. Build relationships with the people that are in your community, diversify your friendship base, diversify the places that you're going, because you never know what a relationship's going to lead to. So Cheyenne Fan is our nutrition service director in Barron County, and we have a really great relationship. And I reached out to her and I said, I've just started this new position. Can we get more local food into the school system? And she was like, I'm doing a summer bag program right now that I would love to have more local food in it, because all we really have right now is processed food. And I feel like the kids that are participating in the summer bag program, if you all are not familiar with those, some of the school systems do those, and it's for socially disadvantaged groups in the community that are in need of food throughout the summer, because the children eat food in school during the school year, but they're not necessarily going to have meals for themselves in the summer. And so she said, I need fruits and vegetables for it. If you can get enough food to help us source 2,000 bags a week for the rest of the summer, I'll buy as much as I can from farmers. And that was a little challenging, because that was my first month on the job, and I was like, well, I know a couple farmers that may be able to provide a portion of that, but not a lot. So I went out, and with the relationships that I had, that led to other relationships with farmers, and finding the volume and then coordinating that effort together, so that no, I didn't have one farmer that could deliver 2,000 bags every week of 5-cup servings of fruits and vegetables. But I had 3 farmers that were able to do that, who built relationships and then decided, if he'll go to 3 schools, then I'll go to these 3 schools, and then you take these 3 schools. And what I loved about this specific thing that I worked on is because it showed kind of everything that makes it important to be a value chain coordinator, because you're not making it about one person. You're building relationships. The farmers benefited from that direct sale. There was no in-between or markup that they had to do a wholesale price on, because it was some of it was purchased with grant dollars, which meant they were paid retail for their fruits and vegetables. And there was a community being served that needed access to local healthy foods. And so the farms listed on that slide up there were ones that participated, but specifically this farm that was a new beginning farmer in the middle where they're doing the corn didn't have but one sales outlet, which was a farmer's market. And now they have a relationship with the school system, and they've already been contacted to do crop planting with them for the upcoming summer bag program. And it's become a steady flow of income for that farm. So to the point where one of them said, I don't even have to go to the farmer's market anymore, and that makes me very excited, because I don't like talking to people. So, because he's a veteran and he's not very sociable, but he loves to grow food, and he grows a lot of it. And so this was a match for him. We try to come up with those creative solutions and match them with the markets that make the most sense for them. But it's not only benefiting one farmer, it's benefiting 3 different ones, and this year potentially 4 or 5 different ones. And that's the point, for it to benefit as many people as possible and bring them together so that everybody's getting a little piece of that pie. And at the same time, there's someone on the receiving end that's getting the nutritious food that is accessible and affordable that they need in their diet.
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Graham. I'm the Eastern Kentucky Value Chain Coordinator. I've got 45 or 46 counties across the state, and go much further west than what most people consider to be east. I think it's getting ready to pop up here, but I live in Wolfe County. If you're familiar with the area, it's the Red River Gorge area. Natural Bridge State Park is close by. But one thing we want you all to know is that we work with all sorts of farmers of all different sizes. So, Brandy was talking about some of the bigger projects she's done, and those are some farmers that are producing at a rather large scale. And you might be sitting here thinking, I'm not there yet, and that's okay. We're here to help you wherever you are and meet you where you are. So one of the things that I worked on last summer was a partnership with Natural Bridge State Park. I had, like Brandy mentioned, it's a lot about relationships. I already had a relationship with the park manager and knew that he believed in farmers and believed in farmers markets and the local food movement. And I know this because it is the only state park in Kentucky that hosts a regional farmers market. So starting in May and going through October, every Saturday you can find the Red River Gorge Farmers Market there at Natural Bridge. So I knew Tim would be willing to do this project with me. So to kind of ease his staff into it, to ease himself into it, but also to ease our farmers into it, we had a few times throughout the summer, had a farm-to-table buffet. So the restaurant there at the resort, there we go, I can't even think today. But we had a local buffet. So instead of trying to get a farmer to come in and completely supply any one product or multiple products for a month or for a week, we were able to do this special buffet once a month, and that allowed the farmers to kind of figure out what's it like to work with food service, and it helped that food service staff figure out what's it like to work with farmers. You know, those of us in agriculture, we have our lingo that we use, and we have our alphabet soup and all of these acronyms, and we know what it means, but people outside of agriculture don't know what it means, and they have their own language as well. So something that we can do as value chain coordinators is to help bridge that gap between our farmers and our buyers, whether that is a state park or if it's a school system or a hospital or a university, even a restaurant. We are there to be a middle person, but we are a middle person that you want. You know, this is a free service. We're here to help you all and meet you where you are. And like Brandy had mentioned too, is where do you want to be? At what scale do you want to be producing? What markets do you want to get into? And we are here as a resource for you all, and happy to advocate on your behalf and get your products moving.
Hi everyone, I'm Faye Kuzman and I'm the Central Kentucky Value Chain Coordinator. So as you can see on the map here, covering Frankfort, Lexington, Louisville, and surrounding counties. So I live in Jessamine County. Prior to this, I was an extension agent in Woodford County for a long time, building up relationships there and in surrounding counties as we did programs with surrounding farmers in the region. So I really used that as kind of a start in developing those relationships. But as Heather and Brandy just shared, that's kind of, you know, our work is really developing and building those relationships with farmers and kind of understanding where you are. And if you want to, you know, move to the markets outside of a direct-to-consumer, of course, you know, we work with a lot of farmers that are still doing farmers markets or CSAs, but maybe they have a certain product like tomatoes or some meat that they want to sell outside of those direct markets, and so we can help, you know, fit what you were looking for with that market. And so we are boots on the ground every day really looking for those markets. So whether that might be a restaurant, so like in the example that I have here, there's a chain of restaurants in Lexington. They're also in Louisville, Vinaigrette Salad Kitchen. And so in this example, it's a restaurant that might be buying larger volume, but we were able to come up with like a creative solution that, you know, there was a farmer in the Lexington area that could sell salad greens to them, and so that they could service their Lexington stores. And then another farm in Louisville that could service their Louisville stores. And the other part of that is that, you know, they serve a lot of greens, and maybe those farms didn't have the volume to completely fulfill the volume they needed in that restaurant, but we were able to work with them to figure out, well, maybe they could buy, you know, 50% of what they're buying in local lettuce from lettuce from a local grower, and then you know, supplement the rest with whatever they were already using for the local greens. So you know, do like a 50-50 mix, and then that helps them with price points. So sometimes, you know, with these larger scale places, they might not be able to pay the local price, but if we're able to combine and you know, talk to them about, well, can you buy a certain percentage of local, and that's still making a really big impact for those farms. And I guess, you know, there's always the challenges in this work, and, you know, I had some of the challenges in here as being the price point, but, you know, we're working through those creative solutions to figure out how we can still make it work with those challenges. And then, you know, the change in management, a lot of these places, you know, they might be, if you've worked with restaurants or some of these type of markets, there's a lot of change in chefs, or maybe there's a change in a manager at a college. Well, we're here to really work through that and just help be an advocate for you as farmers to continually reach out and just make sure that you're not losing that connection or that market. And so, that those challenges are for us to work through and then ensure that you still have a market for your product. Another challenge we've worked through is a lot of if we're working with schools, they have the Local Food for Schools grant. So we've been working with a lot of those schools, and maybe as a farmer, it might be tough for you to deliver to all of those different sites. If there's a school district that has, 15, 20 different locations, but we work, closely with those food service directors to figure out a solution for that. Whether that be, you're delivering to this one district and just servicing that area and not the others, but kind of working through the logistics of that. We're able to be the middleman for as long as it needs to make it make sense for you all as farmers to figure out how best to move forward. And then we've been able to work through the challenge of seasonality by just, working through, okay, well, say for example, with the vinaigrette, I was able to bring in local lettuce, but also some local fruits from another farm. And, they were looking for a certain type of apple. Well, it's only going to be in season for maybe a couple months. And so we can work through, scheduling that and having them have the understanding that this is not just like your normal buying where you just pull in from, you can buy those all season long. You're going to have to understand that this is just going to be a couple months and kind of working through all those logistics with it as well. But yeah, we're here if you would reach out to any, whatever region you're in, and we'd be happy to meet with you, kind of see where you're at, what your goals are moving forward, what maybe markets that you're looking for outside of those direct-to-consumer markets. If you have a certain product or you're not sure, we'd be happy to work through that with you. And, whether that's getting into a restaurant or getting into maybe a local college or a retail outlet, any of those markets beyond that direct-to-consumer, that's what we're here to support you, and we're constantly looking for those markets. So as we meet, we might have something in mind, or it might be down the line, but we'll continue that relationship and work through that. So thank you.